how do you find those opportunities? Is it a matter of luck or skill, or is it strategic planning, or is it how do you end up with those amazing opportunities?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a lot to do with luck. I'm not gonna try and say anything else. Obviously, you need to be ready to grab the chances when they are there. So you need to be ready to move, at least in shipping, to another destination, which can be for some, and it also was for me in the beginning, a bit, would say terrifying, but challenging. You say goodbye to all your friends, family, etc. So you need to be ready to move when you get the chance. But I think definitely it's about being at the right place at the right time, and you can't always plan these things. Of course, it helps if people feel you've been doing a good job up until the time when said opportunity arises. But that circumstances play a large role in this is for sure. I think if I can just add, in shipping at least, it's also a lot to do with your network. Shipping is very much a relationship-driven business industry, and many of the jobs in particular in LPG, which I'm working in a different segment now of shipping, but in LPG, which is a small community, many of the jobs, if not all of them, but many of the good jobs at least are not even announced. So people find them through their network. So of course, by having a good network and having people saying, okay, this guy's pretty okay, is a way of getting that next job.
Totally agree. And today you're obviously the CEO of Golden Ocean, and also there was a bit of randomness that you ended up in Norway.
Yes, it was a bit of randomness. After Hamburg, where I spent, as I said, 8 years, I moved, you can say, to the other side of the table. So I was working on the ship owning side, and I moved over to the customer side. So I moved to the trading side, to a trading house where they were buying and selling the cargoes, but also owning vessels. So I was responsible for the ship owning book, and that was very interesting. That was a more difficult move for me privately, because in the meantime I got married and I had a child. So moving everyone from Hamburg was more of a challenge, but we did it, and the idea was to stay there for a long time. But as the circumstances happened, it ended up being only 1.5 years. We were at the time negotiating with Avance Gas about a kind of a joint venture between Petrodec, as the company was called, and Avance, and that those talks didn't materialize, and that was fine. But then afterwards, I was asked by Avance if I was interested in taking over as CEO for Avance. So they sort of dragged me up on the other side of the table again, and I guess my heart was still, a little bit filled with the owner side. So I said yes to that, and after. No disrespect to Oslo, but it took a little, what can you say, convincing of my wife moving from London to Oslo. We love it here, so don't worry. But it was a big move again, and it was very shortly after we had already moved. So I hope now that I can stay in Oslo for many years and take a breather.
but basically, Ulrik, based on all the stories, that you have to be sort of adaptable to strike to the opportunities that arrive in shipping, because it could come fast, and then you suddenly have this decision to make that you should move family and move, place to live, etc. So it's about also being adaptable and flexible in this market.
Very much so. I think that's probably the key factor here. Of course, combined with some, what can you say, with some randomness, with some luck, but being able to be light-footed and move at the right opportunity is needed. And I'm not gonna try and paint an overly rosy picture of that, because it's not always fun to move around the world. It has some consequences, of course it does. It also gives a lot. So it's that balance that you need to strike. But for me and my family, it has worked, and we have always stayed in the vicinity, at least after the family vicinity of Copenhagen, allowing us to go back. Clearly now we have a COVID situation, it's different, but from Hamburg we could drive up. From London it was relatively easy to fly back, many connections. The same here in Oslo, relatively short. So for us it has been a priority that we can still reach our families, I can reach my friends, and all of that. So you know, that's a long way to Singapore, for instance, which also is a big shipping hub. But that's a different proposition altogether, of course. So yeah, you got to find a way to make that work with your family. Otherwise, you shouldn't be doing it. It has to work on all fronts.